made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 298 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host Luke Millette, and here's your host Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Erik Kowalke, and if you want to hear more about relationship marketing through technology, stay tuned. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. My co-host Luke Millette. Wave to everybody, Luke. Coming in from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we got Dr. Erik Kowalke coming in from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for hosting today, Luke.
Of course, no problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so today is episode 298. We're pushing 2 away from 300 and the compound effect of the chiropractic truth. And that's something I do want to give a big shout out to before we get started is Chiro Hustle does protect free speech in chiropractic. We protect the sacred trust of this profession. And, the tenets of what we do is to support the subluxation-based chiropractor and the historical presence of philosophy in the chiropractic profession. But this conversation today, we're going to be discussing with Dr. Erik marketing his app called SCED and some of the nuances involved with the SCED app and how it can help with production and show up rate for new patients and communicating seamlessly with new patients specifically and getting them to show up to their first visits. That we were able to do some of this work up at the Alaska State Fair. And as we have this conversation today, we'll talk more about that. But Dr. Erik, I just want to welcome you to the show again.
Thanks. Yeah, I love being on here and love the mission you guys have for chiropractic and aligns with our belief system and philosophy around the profession. And so, yeah, I love to support it.
So let's step into our first question here, and SCED, the app, and how it helps with the productivity of a chiropractic office. People that might not know about your product, would you just share with people a little bit about how the SCED app helps with chiropractic offices?
Yeah, so I'm a chiropractor myself, run an office in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We run a high volume family-based wellness clinic. And what we really realized was, if you think about the last 10 years, our lives have become faster paced, more convenience brought to us, and less do we know what's going to happen a year from now. I just think back 10 years ago, and we would sign somebody to a care plan, and we'd schedule out all 12 months of their visits, and we print it on a piece of paper, and they would take it home and put it on their fridge or like right in their hanging wall calendar, all of their visits for the year. Like, that sounds crazy. Now, 10 years later, people don't even know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now. I pretty much don't know what's going to happen tomorrow night. Like, if I'm going to go to a sporting event with my kids, is there parent-teacher conferences? Like, what's happening? We can order stuff on Amazon and it gets to us the same day. That didn't even exist 10 years ago. We can order coffee through a mobile app and pick it up, without waiting. We can do everything. The convenience factor in our life has just gone so much higher, and we just weren't keeping up in the chiropractic world, like our own business. I feel like we were lagging behind. And so people weren't starting care, and they weren't sticking to care, not because of cost, but purely because of convenience. They couldn't fit chiropractic and wellness care and like lifetime care into their life because we made it too difficult. And the biggest part of it was scheduling. We made it too difficult for them to get on our schedule. We made it too difficult for them to reschedule or move an appointment time. They didn't know who was supposed to come in when, and it just got so rigid that they just like, this is just too much for me right now, and they just wouldn't start care. So we created SCED to bring the convenience factor to patients, but still give control from the office. So we found the sweet spot in that convenience and control where they still stay compliant, they still stick to their recommendations, but yet they have the control and the freedom that they do with all the other parts of their life that they want. And we just continue to develop that for the chiropractic profession to increase efficiency and communication between the chiropractor and the patient through mobile applications.
Well, before I jump in, I just want to thank you and Sked for sponsoring the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's because of sponsors like you that allow us to keep free speech alive in the profession. And I just wanted to thank you for that first and foremost.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
And I had a really cool idea. If you want Sked to be at the forefront of chiropractic scheduling software, you should have a plugin that you click a button and Jim Chester shows up. So the thing I wanted to ask is, what is Sked not doing right now that you wish you could be doing? Like, is there anything on the horizon that you see yourself doing in the future that you just can't implement yet?
Ooh, that's a great question. We're in a unique space in the chiropractic industry, software-wise, because we sync with other EHR systems. So you don't have to choose, do I use Sked or do I use ChiroTouch? Do I use Sked or do I use Genesis or Platinum? Like, you can use Sked and those other ones. And I think I think we just keep developing features that help hold people accountable and improve their compliance, because ultimately we know if they're compliant to your recommendations, they're going to get the best results. You're happy and they're happy. If they're not compliant, they don't get the best results. You're frustrated, they're frustrated. And how do we use software to improve communication? And oftentimes I think about it like this. If I came out with a device and I said, all of your patients and everyone in your community is going to carry around a device in their pocket 16 hours a day on average. They're going to look at that device 4 hours a day on average. And they're going to have it with them when they're in your office. They're going to be looking at it when they sit in your waiting room for 10 minutes before they get adjusted, every single visit. And you can now send messages and education to that device. You can send them information on when your next event is. You can send them specials if you're, promoting something in your office. You can send them information about, preventative wellness care, subluxation, above, down, inside out, just like you'd hand them a flyer to educate them on a testimonial. You could send that to this device. They find directions to your office. They can share reviews. They can share their testimonial to other patients. They can manage their schedule all on this device they carry around with them 16 hours a day. Look at it 4 hours a day. Would you be interested in that? Everybody be like, oh my gosh, that'd be the most amazing thing ever. That's the mobile phone, right? So we just took, what do we want our patients to get? We want them to understand chiropractic. We want them to know what we know. We want to educate them every visit. So how do we just come up with technology that does that through their mobile phone that they already have on them, that they're already looking at? And then we know they open the message within, 98% of them open it within a minute. Like, how else can you communicate? When COVID hit last year on, I think it was March 13th on a Friday, 2:00, we found out. By 3:00, all 2,000 of our active people knew we were going to be open next week for business as normal. And they all saw within a minute of getting them. How else would I get that information to them that fast and that efficiently? Am I going to call them? Am I going to send them an email? We're going to get an 18% open rate. I mean, there's no other method of communication that is as solid and reproducible and has the results of text messaging. And we just created the system to do that for chiropractors.
Well, I don't know. Do you have any follow-up to that, Luke?
I mean, that does sound pretty amazing. I don't have a follow-up to that quite yet.
Well,
but speaking of, you mentioned like marketing and being social, and so that kind of makes me think, how do you guys market Sked? What are some of your favorite marketing techniques of putting your software in chiropractic offices? Like, how do you spread your awareness?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is people don't even know our product exists. That's our biggest barrier to entry in chiropractic is they don't even know that this exists. Like, are you kidding me? Wait, they can do this? I can send them this? They can see this? I didn't even know that exists. So that's our biggest barrier to entry. But really it's in this market, how hard is it to find a CA right now? And how hard is it to train a CA and keep a CA and pay a CA? I mean, these are some of the biggest problems chiropractors are facing as staff. And it's always the biggest problem to scaling and growing a business is the right people doing the right job the right way. And if we can take some of those tasks off of a team member, messaging and follow up for missed appointments and education across the front desk. Like if we can free up phone calls, we can free up moving appointments by 15 minutes either way. We can take some of those tasks and automate that. Now you just freed up your team members that you're paying $15, $20 an hour so they can actually engage in the people in front of them, which is what you really want them to do. You know, the high level tasks that only a person can do. What are the lower level stuff that just has to be done that we can automate in a personalized way? That's what Sked just keeps adding on, because it's going to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every holiday. It's never going to call in sick. You can rely on it 100% of the time. And it's going to cost you a fraction of what it would cost you to try to hire a person to do that on a day in, day out basis over the course of a month. So I think that's the automation piece. So a business can create durability and scalability in it is what Sked is really good at.
I'm going to jump in for a moment and just once again reiterate, thanks for being a sponsor of this show that we put on. It's been 4 years in the making for Luke and I, and we couldn't do it without support from our sponsor. So I just want to reiterate what Luke said earlier. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. And that gets me to the idea and the concept of relationships. And I really believe that what you said throughout the technology, that it develops relationships and it can help make some touch points for people to stay more active with the community that you're building. And the old school chiropractic office was the only time that you're going to get reached out to is if it's a proactive or a reactive style approach. And you missed your appointment. Now we're going to call you. Now there's some deep shame and guilt to like, you did something wrong. Why didn't you keep your appointment? And this doesn't even cause that friction point. Like There's no friction point. Like if somebody's like, gosh, the kids have like a late soccer practice and I can't make it in like right on time when I thought I was going to get here. Oh, I can go out to the Sked app and there's no friction point anymore. I just bumped myself to 45 minutes out rather than feeling like I let myself down for the care plan that I assigned myself to. And now I'm not making this visit, which is, I know I'm supposed to be here 3 days a week, but now it's so inflexible that I'm just going to drop care.
Yes.
So we've actually created some solutions for those friction points. And you were right. Training somebody to do things the right way consistently takes a lot of nurturing in the office space. And what you want that person to do is relationship outreach when people are actually there. You want them to wave at people and to greet people and to make sure that they're having a good office experience, not just somebody that's behind there that's just constantly like on the phone and, you know, doing two things at once and trying to make calls and do this and the whole thing. But you are right. The profession is, it's experiencing somewhat of a drought for people that could be even acceptable to come work in your office that will stick around more than 2 weeks. Yep. So Sked doesn't take weekends off. It doesn't take holidays off. It doesn't get sick. And it shows up when you want it to. And it gives people that real-time analysis to say, I'm going to come in tomorrow even. And sorry, today didn't work out.
Yeah, and I think it's even more important and vital for a chiropractic clinic because most chiropractors are running their business one team member quitting away from total chaos. If one team member leaves, it's like, you know? How many businesses run their business so thin on margins that if one person leaves, it kills momentum and creates chaos in your whole business? Well, not many businesses run like that.
Well, there's no backup to the main player. Like there's not much next man up like mentality in the chiropractic CA market. Like
exactly. Like and that's why technology like this creates stability. You know, it creates a little bit like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? That person gets sick. You can't show up for a week. Everybody's going to get an appointment reminder. Everybody's going to get a missed appointment reminder. Everybody's going to know we're open. They're going to know our hours. They're going to be able to still reschedule appointments. Like I'm still going to be able to communicate with them. It's always going to work no matter who shows up or not. That creates a little bit of like, for the main doctor, like you could take a deep breath and know like, okay, I can count on this day in and day out.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority podcast training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
So, kind of a branch off question, changing gears a little bit. Other than SCED, what do you think are some of the greatest advancements to happen in the profession over the past 10 years?
That's a great question. The past 10 years, advancements in the profession. I think it's almost an awareness of us chiropractors just knowing we need to do more and we need to establish ourselves more. And if we don't, our walls are closing in on us regulatory wise and law wise, and like they're closing in slowly on our ability to adjust, kids and families and like what it is that we do as principled chiropractors. I think it's created, for me anyway, what I've noticed is more of awareness of people like, hey, if we don't do something now, it's going to be too late. There's going to come a time where you're not even going to be able to do what you do. And I think for a while we were just kind of sitting by and saying, well, that doesn't affect me. What happens in Australia happens in Australia. That's not happening here. What happens in Canada happens in Canada. It doesn't happen here in the US. And I think the global aspect and the global impact on our chiropractic profession, I've seen more engagement in young chiropractors realizing, you know what, I might be able to adjust kids in the US, but I'm going to become part of the solution so that we can help people internationally that are also aligned with our chiropractic beliefs. And in turn, that's going to help solidify the foundation of what we believe as a profession across the world for generations to come. And I feel like there's more young chiropractors buying into that and investing into the profession from that level. And I think that's encouraging.
Yeah, we definitely have to take care of the youth movement and to make sure that they know how to adjust as well. That's something else. It's not just the perception of not having the walls get closer in on us, but also making sure that they know how to carry the torch and know how to talk the tick. And I think that those are things that leadership is a huge thing that we need to focus on too. And circling back to us, like the show, we've been documenting these interviews for 4 years now and protecting that message and making a time capsule that people can have for reference to go back and remember the good times before we had the past 2 years, and to hear that type of communication before we had this type of this new road that we're on. Like we got put on a new road to figure stuff out together, and the unity's got to be a little bit stronger, and it's got to be a little bit better and clearer. And I guess that takes me to a question for you is, one of our tenets is protecting free speech in the profession. How important is that? Like, how important is it for the chiropractor to develop their message and to rely on the lexicon that this profession was founded on?
Yeah, I think it's vital. I mean, you look at the slow fade and just over the last year, like what was communicated, oh, this will never happen, and you're like, really? And now look at today. It's like stuff's happening that they said would never happen. And it's just it's so easy to forget history. Like you guys are using technology to solidify the message of principled chiropractic for generations to come through these podcasts. Amen. I mean, I was just at a Master Circle event last week, and I remember listening to Master Circle tapes and tapes with Jen Tempo back that were filmed in the 80s and recorded in the early 90s when I was a student in the early 2000s. You remember the things you'd open up and there'd be like 6 tapes on each side? I was listening to those as a chiropractic student. Well, I mean, nobody even has it. I still have those tapes. You can't even listen to them. Like, there's not even a tape player anymore. So you guys have created that next technological solution. Like, how do we get that same principled information delivered by the newest and greatest people, stored in a way that can be accessible for generations to come within the profession? And I think that's just super important.
Well, I know we usually save this part for the end of the episode, but I just kind of wanted to get in there now in case anyone listening is curious. How do people go about getting Sked in their office? Where do they go? Do you have any promotions going on right now that people should take advantage of?
Yeah, if you go to info@sked.life, also we'll post a link, special to Chiro Hustle, that you guys can click on, and there's a promotion we're doing. I think gives you a few $100s off starting with Sked. But I can tell you, I'm a busy chiropractor too. Like, we created Sked to be as easy as possible to implement and as easy as possible to manage moving forward. So sked.life is our website. info@sked.life is our email. You can go check it out and see all of our pricing options and everything on there. But our team literally white gloves the whole install, all the training, everything you need on exactly how your office runs and how Sked can bring you the most value day one that you start using it. And so just know that process is as easy as we could possibly make it.
So let's just pretend for a second I'm a chiropractor and I order Sked today. How quickly could I be implementing it and using it?
2 days.
Nice.
Yep, we can have you up and running in 2 days.
And I'm going to ask you some more geared questions on how it can help with reactivation, but I also want to give you the opportunity to ask me some questions about what we did up in Alaska and unity with your program. But I am curious, like, do you guys have a reactivation strategy with Sked to get people that are old files to say, I'm going to come back to, the chiropractor, darn it, why did I stop doing this? And have you seen that happen with what you're doing? And has there been some success that you like to share?
Oh gosh, yeah. Reactivation is, you look at how much money chiropractors spend to go get new patients that have never been in the office. If you spend a fraction of that to go get people that have already come in, I mean, your ROI on that is like so much better. And they're great because once they come back, they stay forever. It's the people that thought they'd be fine, and then a year or two later they realize they're not, and then they come back. Now the communication that now they really get it. They just had to see for themselves how bad it was or what life was like without being adjusted, and then they just stay forever. So our software will automatically do that for you. You can say, hey, if somebody hasn't arrived in my clinic for this type of a treatment in this long, send them this message. If they haven't been in for this long and don't have a future appointment, send them this message. Almost like you would customize a CRM, to market to people. We've just done that with your own database of clients that have come into your office, but we know who's had an appointment for what types of appointments. We know when they've arrived. We know the times of all that, the days of all that, all their information. So you can just segment out and create an automation to reach out to these people with exactly what you want to say. You could even customize a video that you want and then send them that video of you inviting them back into the clinic with a link to a special offer, to a landing page or something. Like, the opportunity is endless. And once you customize that, then Sked just automates that for you, and it just keeps going day in and day out. I think our closest one that we use is if you haven't been in the office in 2 weeks, if you haven't arrived in the office for 2 weeks, so maybe you had an appointment, but you just kept missing it, and you don't have a future appointment, we send you a message that says, hey, it's been 2 weeks. Because we all know how many people that are like, they come in, haven't been in 3-4 weeks, but they feel like they were just in last week because life is so busy. And you're like, hey, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. They're like, nah, I was here last week. You're like, no, actually you weren't, because their life just got crazy. So Sked just takes that gap for you now, almost like you'd hire a team member like Mary. Look through the schedule, and everybody that was supposed to be here this week, call them. If they're not here on Thursday afternoon, call everybody. That's just a whole task you got to pay somebody to do and remember to do. Now Sked will just automate that whole process for you.
Well, I guess it turns me into this question is, if somebody's never used Sked and they have I don't know, 40,000 people that have come into their office over the past 10 years, is this possible to plug all those people into a campaign?
Yep. You just upload them all in there. You can have if you signed up today, by Friday, you could have an email and a text message to all 40,000 people.
Anybody that wants to have your best Q4 right now, jump on Sked and plug into this system and do a reactivation campaign. And then I guess the follow-up question to that is reviews. How often do you recommend a chiropractor at what juncture in a person's care plan? Do you ask them to get a review, and do you guys have something that you can automate for that as well?
That's a great question. If you look at, I'd say don't believe anything I say. Go check and challenge me on everything that I'm telling you. Go to Higher Health Chiropractic in Grand Rapids. You can look. I think we almost have 500 Google reviews.
No way.
10 to 15 new patients a month consistently that find us off Google. And we're not like spending a whole bunch of money on Google ads. They just, you get a lot of Google reviews. Google promotes you. Like they want you to be at the top because you're the best and you're the highest and you have the most reviews. And so
social proof. It's
social proof. And it's proof for Sked's whole review campaign. We consistently get reviews every day. We get more reviews because we automate that process to go out after, for us, it's like a visit after 12, after like a month and they're seeing results when we automate, hey, send them this review request. But the key is the number of steps it takes to leave a review. So we did so much research on this. Every step you add decreases your actual reviews by significant. So when we sent them a message for review and they had to click on it and say, yes, they had a good experience. And then they had to rate it. And then they had to click on Google, Facebook, or Yelp. And then they had to go leave the review. We had a 0.6% review rate. Like 0.6% of the people that got the text actually left a review. As soon as we decrease that to, you can pick which one on your side, Google, Facebook, or Yelp, and then you just click on it and it automatically takes them to Google that they're already logged into, and it automatically is like pre-fills at 5 stars and they can leave the review. We went up to a 6%. Went from 0.6 to 6% of people leave a review. And you can see how many people are like actually typing a review versus just saying 5 stars. So yeah, that's something, and it just never ends. I'm investing in Sked. Even if I paid $300 a month and all it did was the review generation, you look at how that pays off to me at 15 new patients a month, every month moving forward, and it just keeps growing. Like that's an ROI that just keeps coming forever.
Well, if we just anchor into the reactivation strategies that Sked provides, the real-time automated response activity that it does, and then the opportunity to get reviews plugged in. Those 3 actions alone are what every chiropractic, it's the golden goose for chiropractic, in my opinion, when it comes to real-time, what matters: social proof, connectivity, relationship marketing, getting people to say yes with less stress, and getting them to show up and to make that an agreement. And it's a cooperative type agreement when it comes to becoming under care with the chiropractor. You have to actually say, yeah, this is a good thing, and this is something I want to be a part of. And the reminder, I think, is just it's so vital. And that kind of that gets me to the part where I want to throw the ball to you and have a quick discussion on the success that we had with your software up at the Alaska State Fair.
Yeah. I think everybody would love to know this because, Jim and I talked a few months back and he's like, hey, I could really use some help at this Alaska State Fair because we have multiple clinics and we sign up hundreds and hundreds of people. And so we integrated Sked into that process for him to schedule people at events into an actual schedule that is real time with your clinic. So that's the best thing about technology now is you could be scheduling people at multiple events and multiple offices at the same time. The office is scheduling people at the same time as people are moving appointments around internal or calling the office, and all of it syncs real time together and doesn't screw it all up. So what was your experience? I think you got to tell people, how many people did you guys get at the Alaska State Fair and how did that process work?
Yeah, well, this is my 5th year doing it. It sped up the process of efficiency so quick. The year before was a wash because of, they shut everything down for that year. But before that, the year before, we did 534, and we increased by 130 this past year, which was 665. And to say that I could hit a QR code, it would pop up the scheduler for that specific office, and I could just go through and have them even input their own information into the app. And then knowing that while they're sitting there getting the rest of their paperwork and we take their payment, that they're getting a real-time text with their information within a minute of them scheduling. I will tell you that on average, we've done a 70% typical show up rate with these offices. Some of our clinics this year, because of the implementation of SCED, we've had 85 to 95% of people showing up for the offer that we sold at the fair, which in my opinion gives more people port of entry into an office, and it gives them less stress at that front desk to follow up through a CRM, and it gives them less stress to reschedule patients or to get them back on the books. And I think what we did is we flooded some of these offices. The most that we sent to one office was 217 patients in a calendar month, which I think is unheard of in today's world, to get that much volume. I don't care what campaigns you're doing. We probably made him the busiest chiropractor in the whole country that month, with new patients. So what it did is helped my efficiency. It helped with making sure that there's an automation strategy behind the scenes to stay in touch with this prospective new patient. And the show rates were impressively high. And I think a lot of that had to do with the automation and the touch points with the software.
Yeah. So to back up, I didn't even know those stats. So that's fantastic, because I was hoping that's what was going to happen. That's what we anticipated happening. But SCED automates the new patient welcome series after they make that appointment. So, as Jim was standing there closing them, or if you're at an event closing somebody, you're not even done talking to them, and they have an email with a welcome video from you. They have an email with a link to fill out their paperwork online. They have the email that has the directions to your clinic and appointment date and time, all automatically. And so that whole series and follow-up is done automatically for you through SCED, as it's already created the patient file in your EHR system. We just looked at, well, what can we make it do to make our life awesome? And we just made it happen.
Yeah. And I think what it did for those offices, we primarily sent the 665 patients to 9 offices. And what it did for those offices is allowed them, once again, to have to jump into a spreadsheet and to pull that information and upload it into their EHR. And it allowed them to get people to do their first day paperwork before they even opened up the front door to that office. It allowed them to see the doctor who they were going to go see on a video before they even stepped foot into that office. They got a chance to see a vibe of where they were going to because of the marketing strategies that we followed. So it wasn't just the idea of making more people show up, but it was, how can we automate this to take the stress off of the CA once again, and the person that's actually making sure that the schedule is being managed the right way. And I think it was just brilliant. I think it was a brilliant move that we both made together. And I think that it showed in spades to them for the amount of people that we were able to process and the show rates that we were experiencing. So I think it was a win-win-win. We got more people influenced to chiropractic. We got more busy offices for the chiropractic profession. And it made my job a lot more fun and easy.
Yeah. I mean, imagine going from 70% to 85, 95% show up rate. I mean, that's huge.
In my 600 events I've done, I've never seen that.
That's awesome.
And I've never seen that high of like a compliancy with what we do, to the point that people are just showing up. And I can look at the stats. I can see it all. I would say overall, we've had probably about an 80%. We've probably upticked 10% across the board. Yep. because of the campaign with SCED.
It's awesome.
And on that note, we're going to close out this episode. Dr. Erik, thank you for being our guest as well as our sponsor. And are there any closing remarks you'd like to leave people with, or any last words of wisdom?
Yeah, I just would thank Chiro Hustle, and know that from SCED, we are who we say we are. We're not going to tie you into a long-term contract. We're not hosting your reviews and then pulling them if you don't keep with us, like a lot of companies do around this profession. So we're with chiropractors. We are chiropractors. We're for chiropractic, and we do month to month on us. So if it's something that if it's not bringing you benefit, we don't want to, force you to use our product. So I'd say start sooner than later. Check it out. If you want to talk to me, you can reach out to me directly on how we run stuff in our clinic, and how we leverage SCED to just make that convenience part of everyday lifestyle and make chiropractic part of their everyday lifestyle. And I just thanks again to Luke and Jim for hosting Chiro Hustle and all that you put into it, and all the amazing guests you guys have on here. This is something I follow pretty regularly. And thanks for creating this database for chiropractors forever.
So the email is info@sked.life and the website is sked.life.
That's it.
All right, head over there if you want to implement SCED into your practice. And Dr. Erik, I just want to thank you again for being on our show. We love what we do, and I couldn't imagine a Tuesday without it.
Awesome.
And with that being said, let's ride off into that Grand Rapids sunset together.
That's right.
All right, we'll see you next time, Dr. Erik.
See you guys.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.